Let's begin. So begin to get a sense of the very top of your skull, the crown. And as you get a sense of this, not only positionally, but respiratorily, does it breathe? Can you sense it from a breath perspective? The perspective of alive motion. Yeah, the living bone, right? It's not just a block up there, a block of bone. And can you follow that aliveness that's in the breathing bones of your skull? And just very patiently track that aliveness as best as you can, right through the center of the head, the throat, the lungs. It'll go just through the side of the heart. Diaphragm. Right through the stomach, intestines. We're getting into the pelvic space, going right into that area between the hip bones. Genitals. Right between the sit bones. To the delicate nervy tip of the tailbone. Right, and isn't this why we do this? Meet consciousness to consciousness. As we keep noticing that this is a part of us, this is us. The adoption of that as us, gradually and over practice, over time, starts to expand us. And we're going to work with that paradox today. The paradox being somehow, by me getting really focused on feeling this particularity in this singular vertical or central location, that somehow there's something there that starts to enlarge my embrace, my consideration of what I am, what you are. So the paradox is we're focusing in on something very particular. And that very particular recognition will offer us a more universal connection. Strange and beautiful. So I'm glad we get to do this together. For our pranayama today, I'm going to suggest a really subtle breath. So this isn't Ujjaya necessarily. You're welcome to take up Ujjaya and work with it. So it's a really nice technique for staying connected to your breath. I'm going to recommend just a very subtle breath. We've been working with feeling organs breathe, feeling tissues breathe. If that's in your perceptual purview, go for it. Otherwise, right here, so it's behind the stomach, so just the basically solar plexus. We have to kind of go in a little bit. You're just going to get a sense of behind the stomach, solar plexus, in front of the spine, and feeling the breath move, possibly spread, possibly open. All of these little areas between the organs. It's like the inter-organ space. So they're not just jammed up in there. You know, in the automotive world, mechanics say they love working on old trucks because there's just so much space between all the parts that hasn't been microized. So we'll begin here, and our job is not to push the breath or deliver it or send it, but just to feel how it spreads and moves if it spreads and moves. So here's our locus of attention. Let's begin. I'm suggesting a subtle breath that comes before any Ujjaya technique. So if you hear the breath, get as quiet with the breath as you can. Very particular quality but it may not be obvious. It's distinct, but it's not necessarily a loud quality. So we really have to tune in. And I know I'm asking us to do a kind of a weird exercise here in feeling between the organs, but just go with it and we'll find out what we find out. Softening the belly will be a great, great help. Allowing the diaphragm to release up with exhale will be a great help. You may feel a little gasp or it's like there's little air bubbles, like the need to yawn or sigh, and that's perfectly fine. That happens. Now, the next time we visit this breath in Shavasana, we may get a different sense. We're just getting a baseline sense. And so now, part 2. Let's switch the cross of our legs. This is quite an energetic departure, so there'll be a great amount of contrast here. We're working rounds of Kapalabhati. Okay. We're not in Ujjaya Breath yet, but focusing now between the navel and the pubic bones, tip of the nose. We'll do about between 40 and 50. So grab your tissues and let's begin. When you're through, this is a perfect time to now move into Ujjaya Breath. So now we will use the more gross, the larger, the more material, obvious breathing techniques. So we can work with some warmth. We can work with our energy today. And today I'll be pointing at and reminding us to feel the inter-organ space, or at least the surfaces, the organ-to-organ surfaces. So the premise for this is, well, when we started off, everything between our mouth and our anus was a tube, a singular vertical tube. And then with a lot of folding and a lot of rotating and a lot of twisting and a lot of turning over and folding over, we eventually got to having our stomach and our intestines. So there is some ground for having all of this inter-organal space. So we're going to presume that we have that. We do. Let's set the right leg out. We'll keep the left knee or the left leg folded. You can do this heel in front of pelvis. You could put your left heel behind your pelvis. Now, reaching or involving this inner right leg all the way to the ball of the foot. So I feel a heightened sense of, oh, there's an inner half to this leg. Inhale, draw the left arm up for chest opener. Now, it's quite possible we'll slip into some of what we have come to know about our breath being a lung, a balloon-like action. We'll just keep offering and reminding that we can breathe, we can attune to the breath of our organs and that organ space. So abdominal cavity, thoracic cavity. And if that sounds far out, then we'll take a far out journey this morning. I'm okay with safe organ journeys. So to me, the breathing starts lower than the diaphragm. It's more the solar plexus area. It's the breath that begins in the solar plexus and easily softens and spreads through the abdomen. This is a major, major immune site. Now, wrapping the shoulder, reaching with that left arm over the right leg, over the trunk, over the head. Moving into a side bend. Adjust with your right hand pressure on the ground so you can feel that you're lengthening through both the right side of your spine and the left side of your spine. Many of us will tend to dampen down on the right side of the spine. So I just use my hand, I push up until I feel, oh, the right side of my low back feels just as lengthy and supported as the left side. And a forward fold is imminent. Bring that left hand down to the ground. I'm placing my hands on either side of right leg. If you wanted to alternately, you could put the hands on the inside of the leg. That seems to bias the kind of more the groin part in the fold. When I put my hands on either side of my leg, it tends to bias this left waist area. And just recommitting to feeling the organs breathe, all of the organs, starting below the diaphragm, solar plexus, and breathing in this way has really helped me feel the viscera, the quality of boundaried, protective sacs and encapsulations that are in our body. These wonderful boundaries that envelop our intestines, that envelop our heart and lungs. I think there's a great, great intelligence to participate in everywhere we find boundaries. And inhale, we'll walk our way up, and we'll do those same three on the other side. So we switch. We've got the left leg out, the right leg bent. We'll start with the chest opener. Inhale, draw the right arm up. And exhaling, allow the diaphragm to release up. So these breaths may feel gentler. These breaths may be Ujjaya or just barely Ujjaya. Ujjaya is just the application of a technique. It has a lot of purposes. One of them heat, one of them just helps us kind of really latch on easily. So attentional. What's really interesting, if you choose Ujjaya without using tone, you can discern the pitch in which you're breathing. If you are using Ujjaya and you're making that oceanic sound, there is a pitch, and without using tone, that pitch could be lower, could be raised. So your Ujjaya breath is not, it's a really dynamic vocalization. Let's move into side bend. Reaching that right arm overhead. You start to feel how the lung boundary connects or slides along the rib boundary. You start to feel how the right side of the colon and the kidney. You start to feel that some of these places are more tightly bound, some of them are more slippy and slidey, just contacting, grazing each other. Forward fold, inhale, bring the right hand down to the ground. We can go both hands inside or hands beside the leg. Softening belly. And so one of the things I'll be playing with later in the week is this accessing the body through the vocals, so that your Ujjaya breath has pitch to it. Not the pitch that we can hear, the pitch that we create. Right? It's still a whisper. You may feel that you can lower the pitch of this whispering Ujjaya and just learn if that degree of shift in the vocal diaphragm gives you a different perception of your breath in your body. Mhm. This Ujjaya breath is a really dynamic thing. Inhale, let's walk our way up. That's probably enough for a 35-hour class, but let's keep it succinct. Let's lie on our back and we'll set up for elbow to knee. Have a roll and a block beside you as you're lying down. This will advance our cause. Here we go. Lying on back. Bring feet either to the ground, to a wall, or just off the ground, floating, so that your knees arranged over your pelvis or even your lower abdomen help your back feel good. Good meaning supported. Interlace the hands behind the head. So while you're lying here, can you feel a breath that's free behind the sternum, where the heart feels free, uncompressed? If you can feel that, I want you to remember that and recall that and repeat that. As we do these abdominals, there is no requirement to compress the front of our heart. So as you inhale, the back side of the body lengthens at no expense to our heart, uncompressed. The head lifts, the heart is uncompressed. Curl tailbone, exhale, left leg out reaches. Now as we're exhaling, finding those low belly muscles, draw the belly down, feeling the tip of the tailbone. Inhale, bend the left knee. As I keep my head up, my heart is uncompressed, really free. Curl tailbone, exhale the right leg out reach. Now as I'm exhaling, the tailbone just moves. It moves because I'm breathing. So we're just making that connection, breathing, pelvis. Inhale, bend that right knee. Heart uncompressed, even though the head and the shoulders are up. Curl tailbone. Exhale, left leg out reach. Drawing the low belly down. Inhale, bend left knee. Keeping the head up lifted, heart still free, lungs free. Curling tailbone, exhale, right leg out reach. And as you outreach, let all of that sensation of leg guide you to the tailbone. As you draw the low belly down, keep noting, hey, tailbone, where is this tailbone? There you go. Inhale, bend the right knee. Let's continue. We'll do 3 more per side. Yes. Those are nice breaths on the heart. Ah. The sensitivity of the foot by highlighting the foot, fanning the foot bones, spreading the foot bones, may give you increased sensitivity through the hip. So the foot is a gateway to the hip is a gateway to the core, the body is a gateway to the body. I'll take one more breath right here while I gotcha. And just finishing up. Let's grab our roll. And we'll place that roll between the legs. If you don't have a rolled up mat, a block will work perfectly, Patricia. So we're just looking for something about 6 to 8 inches wide so that when we place it between our legs, it's about hip width, and we can generate a pretty decent, leg involvement. Rolls are softer than most blocks, so. All right. Inhale, feeling how that breath arrives in the sacrum, the low belly, back of the solar plexus. Hold that. Squeeze the block or the roll between your legs. And the squeeze is just another way to feel energy in the body. So I squeeze. You can start to straighten the legs, so strongly engaging those leg muscles. And now exhale, lengthen the backside of your body by lifting the head and the shoulders. Heart remains uncompressed. Draw the low belly down. And then as I relax the abdomen, the tailbone, inhaling, I relax the head and the shoulders down. So there's this whole body release on inhale. Now just for a moment, hold the breath, compress that air between your legs. It includes the prop. But compress everything between the ankles, between the calves, between the knees, between the thighs. Girl tailbone. Exhale, lengthen the backside of your body. The head lifts, the shoulders lift, the heart and lungs in front, uncompressed. So I'm elevated, but I'm not pressing down on my lung organs. The legs stretching toward the sky, draw the low belly down, down away from the toes. Inhale, as you relax the head down, relax the leg squeeze, belly, abdomen, soften. Just a momentary pause as we squeeze the air between the legs. Compress everything between the legs. Curl tailbone, exhale, the head and shoulders lift. Not because we're pulling, but because the back side of our body is starting to lengthen. Draw the low belly down. Let's do a few more. Inhale. Releasing the legs, the abdomen softens, the head relaxes down. Compress everything between your inner legs, including the prop. Curl tailbone, exhale, head and shoulders. They lift as a function of the back of your body lengthening. Draw the low belly down. Last two on your own. And gradually, gradually, the legs, as they're part of the back of the body, gradually the legs will start to lengthen or straighten. Can you feel the organs kind of move and slide over each other? Or are they getting kind of wedded to each other? These boundary to boundary relationships, whether it's our organs in our body or wherever, there's great relational intelligence. There's great communication that happens. We start to feel these boundaries. They have a relationship. It moves, it slides, there's a motion, there's a movement relationship. Okay. We'll set the feet down for bridge. And this is perhaps where you want that block for our bridge. I'll describe. First, set the feet up, about hip width apart, feet in parallel tracks. Heels fingertip distance. And take a moment, allow the sacrum to simply rest on the ground. You might already be pushing and like anticipating something else with the feet. Just let the feet be on the ground and feel the sacrum, the pelvis, just momentarily relaxing into the earth. We'll have plenty of chance to work. Inhaling, feeling breath spread up into the lungs, down into the intestines. And now feet active, adding some foot pressure. Exhale, shift the tailbone away from the ground until the buttock lifts, the sacrum lifts. The low back, the mid back, they lift. We've entered bridge. And I'm treating this bridge like a suspension bridge, in the sense that I'm using my legs to draw the pelvis and all of those bones, the low back, drawing them gently away from my head. And each inhalation gently draws the mid-spine bones away from the low back bone. The upper ribs and the upper back bones. Gently lifting, drawing away from the mid-back bones. So moments ago, I suggested we could do a pose without compressing the front of the heart. And again, I'll propose that we can do bridge without compressing or stifling the back of the heart. Can you feel breath in the back of your heart? Can you feel the back of your heart breathing? Can you feel how the back wall of your heart contacts the lung tissue? It's near the spine. Can you get a sense of those boundaries, those slipping and sliding, breathing, alive boundaries? And whatever boundaries and layers and envelopments you can feel today is perfect. For some of us, we may just feel like, okay, my skin, it kind of wraps around this whole body thing. Awesome. Then the skin is the boundary we work with, or the ribs, or the bones. But I'll just be talking into the organs with us. So whatever boundaries we get are great. Now that block that's beside you, you may, for support, place that block the tall way under the sacrum. The nice thing about the block is it disallows my hips lowering down. So I can still play with this suspension bridge. I can still play with the legs working and pressing, gently tractioning the pelvis away from the lungs. With the left foot feeling well planted, inhale, we'll pick the right foot off the ground, drawing the knee toward the chest. And then exhale, reach with the right leg. Now, if you need to keep the right knee a little bent, perfect. You want that little kind of flexibility, that sweetness edge, another kind of a boundary. You can straighten that right leg and draw it toward your right ear. And as we start to play with these, that workable edge, those thresholds, therein are boundaries. Right? It's a different kind of a boundary. But again, a highly intelligent boundary. Push down. Yeah, if you want more support, press the earth and find that there's more support there for you. And that's with the foot, right? We're not these isolated organisms that have to figure everything out in an isolation chamber. We've got the earth. We can press the earth. We're in group. We can lean into this wonderful group dynamic. Let's set the right foot down. When it feels well planted on the earth, inhale the left knee toward chest. Exhaling, reach the left leg. You can reach it in the direction of straightening. Straightening and that sweet stretch. So there's another boundary we can play with. Just a hint, a teensy weensy inner leg. Both of these. The right one, with the left one, and lift. So find the tailbone. Tailbone. Deep breath. Don't let me. Give me a little press, left leg. Give me a little press, left leg. There you go. There you go. And gently set left foot down. When both feet have the ground, press, yeah. You feel that the legs, they're sturdy, they're supportive. We've pressed off the block, remove the block. Begin our descent. Great. Once you've lowered all the way down, turn to a side, press. We can get some stuff in the shoulders. Come on to elbows and knees. We'll be setting up flash prep, which means that my arms are slightly staggered. If you're not sure, or this isn't visually evident with the screen, work dolphin. I'll be placing my left forearm on the ground. Now I've got some interesting shadows there. So left forearm is on the ground, elbow under shoulder. Then my right palm goes to the ground. This right elbow, I'm kind of waving it around, is off the ground. So my arms are staggered. But they both push. As I push, I'm tweezing with my two arms, my thumb tips, I'm tweezing inwardly. Inhale, feeling the sides of the ribs, right in front of the solar plexus. Curl the toes under, exhale the knees off the ground. So again, my left elbow is down, it's on the ground. My right elbow is off the ground. And this is so that I can reach with that right forearm, reach with the right elbow toward my right shin. That reach promotes a little movement around the right shoulder blade. Now, if you can feel that right shoulder blade, it's a nice way to start to feel around the lung. So with your breath, can you feel around that right lung? And we can scooch that here. Try that. Now when you push, I'm going to give you a little uplift. Now pull that right elbow. There you go. That's right. Now, if you're having a level 2 moment in your morning, we'll take a leg up. Let's reach left leg toward the sky. You can always keep the feet down, and if you need additional rest, you can always set the knees down. Just squeeze this elbow in. Squeeze it, squeeze it. There you go. Let's set that left foot down. Let's place the knees down, rest for a moment. We'll switch sides. You're welcome. Right forearm is down. Left palm is down. That means my left elbow is off the ground. Tweeze the thumb tips toward the middle of your mat to feel the front of your body. Kind of knits. That tweezing kind of knits the front of your body. Secure, like connected. Not collapsed, but connected. On your exhale, press the knees off the ground. Keep reaching back to that left sit bone. If you're feeling like drawing leg up, we go with the right one this time. Keeping that front side of body knit. we'll want that skill, we'll want to remember that in the not too distant future. Yeah, pull that left elbow back. There you go. Push with that right forearm down. There you go. Hold that. Here's your weight back. And set that right foot down to the ground. Please set the knees down. Rest. When you stand, I'd like to show you at the wall a move we did yesterday. We'll do it today. It's an iteration of shower, meaning my pelvis will be lengthening away from my shoulders. Usually when we do shower, it looks like a downward dog, right? I'm a right angle. We'll clasp hands, put the forearms on the wall. I'm starting just a little bit closer to the wall. I'm about 2 feet, 2.5 feet from the wall. And then I just hinge as much as 90 degrees, but not more. And as I reach through the forearms, I reach through the sit bones. Find a section of wall. If you don't have any section of wall, I suppose we're committed to another round of dolphin. So I think you'll want a wall. It's amazing how quickly people find wall. All right, so clasp hands, place forearms on wall. Standing about 2.5 feet or so from wall, hinge. That means my hips, my sit bones move away from the wall, and my forearms stay on the wall. Okay. Now, many of us have a little difference between our left side and our right side, and that's par for the course. That's really fun stuff to feel. Do you want to be a little closer with the feet? My distance permits me to reach back with my legs, to reach back with my sit bones. That's it, cat. And if you have a sense of that kura, that lengthening of the low back under the diaphragm, that'd be a beautiful move. You've been getting that in such a great way lately. Yes. Oh, one of the things I love about a move like this gentle, elongative suggestion, is that you can start to feel the organs just forearms. Forearms will kind of energetically reach toward the wall. I'm going to suggest just put a little something up under my fingers. Yeah. There you go. Now feel the organ over organ, all that relationship, soften the belly. Now it's true, if we have a lot of inflammation or inflammation byproducts, it affects the tissues, it affects how they slide. So the sliding may be evident for some of us and not all of us. Inflammation stultifies. It helps stagnate motion for protection. Good, and just like a few more breaths, if you're ready to exit, simply step forward. All right, having exited, come on back to your mat wherever you'd love to work. We'll stand at the top. Chair pose, inhale, bending knees. And as the arms lift, as the chest lifts, the tailbone very slightly shifts down. Exhale, fold. Inhale, monkey. I can use hands on the legs and push. The pushing helps me lift with my lungs away from my lap. Hands to ground, exhale, will step back and lower all the way to the ground. With the belly on the earth, setting up for a cobra. Inhale. Lungs lead, heart leads softly away from the colon. Exhale, lower, downward dog, reset the hands under the chest. In as tiny a movement as you can create, in as tiny a movement as you can create, start to guide your eyeballs toward your navel in as tiny, and that's perfect. Just feel how that very tiny eyeball movement changed your entire spine. Inhale, step right foot forward, warrior two. And exhaling, the shoulders soften, the tailbone releases down. So I'm not muscling it down, that's a little different. To feel what the tailbone is doing, soften the lip muscles. Listen to the Ujjaya sound, as the Ujjaya is part of our vocalization. It's part of our expression. Our breath expression is voice. If you are choosing to use Ujjaya, you can start to feel the unheard pitch. Pitch is somatic. Pitch is something that we can feel with our muscles and structure, even if we don't create an audible pitch. It's a throat feeling. It's not just an ear sound. So for an example, would be different than So you can feel how that Ujjaya could be in a very different pitch range. So just as we kind of exercise all these muscles and postures, muscular structural positions of the body, so too our vocal structure, right? There's yoga in that. Extended warrior variation. Inhale, place right forearm on thigh, left hand reach behind back. Grab thigh, or you can grab clothing. Now, right about here, we'll listen to that Ujjaya. Relax the tongue to the floor of the mouth. You can keep that tongue tip touching somewhere if you like. And as the right arm presses, the left hand gently pulls. Again, that sweet spot will help me start to tune into lungs and rib boundaries, lung and heart, shared boundaries. Release. Inhale. Place that left hand down and give your left knee a little extra padding. Lunge. Interlace hands behind back. Now as my tailbone shifts down, I can bend the right knee and enter lunge. This doesn't have to be back bendy. And I'm sending knuckles toward the back edge of mat. A very interesting thing, I think, happens right about here. Just for, if we're starting to feel again our breath, can you sense how much space we're giving to the vocal structure? And just notice if you're pushing your jaw down over your vocal structure. Feel inside the neck, inside the throat, under the jaw, underneath the root of the tongue. You're giving space to that vocal structure. Giving space to that brain stem area, the underneath of the skull. That's it, Kat, that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a really delicate touch. It's a really light. There you go. Now, when we release the hands, our left knee is padded. Okay. You may choose one of two. Left hand grabs left ankle, and the foot gently draws the arm back. Or, option two, you may reach back with both hands. Okay. Grabbing that foot with both hands just requires a little bit of steadiness. And just notice if you're tipping your head off to the side and some kind of, there's also interesting head tipping things that usually crop up in this pose. Just notice that little tip to the right. It's like a down and right thing. And release. Inhale, hands to ground. Exhale, we'll step back, lowering belly to earth. Cobra. Tailbone slips down toward the earth. Inhale. You feel, is there a quality between the organs, the intestines, the diaphragm, the stomach, the lungs, the heart? Exhaling, lower down, downward dog. I just think it's an interesting note Now we call them vital organs. It has the word vital in that moniker. But also when we look into the yoga text, we do this yoga for organs. So organs are the primary, right? They are keeping us alive. The primary focus of yoga traditionally is not the muscles. They're really nice to use the muscles. Let's do it on the other side. Warrior 2, inhale the left foot forward. And exhaling, shoulders relax down. Tailbone relaxes down. Oh, interesting. So as you're gently turning, moving those thigh bones to enter into that groiny part of the stance, you know which one. It's not the quad, it's the groiny part of the stance. Do you notice what just happened in the throat? Around the vocal, around the tongue. And if you need to kind of dose out and dose back into the stance, like by an inch or so, to pay very close mind, there's a fascinating connection between pelvic floor and vocal diaphragm. I think it's fascinating. Yeah. Just as you start to feel the hips, as you start to feel the groin, does the throat area do anything interesting? Does your Ujjaya breath start to sound in any way altered? Those little moments of that altered state, to me that's really interesting. Did the breath go up in pitch? Did the Ujjaya change? Ah. Yeah, you felt that little. You probably maybe felt that Ujjaya breath hit a different part of your palate or your. Yeah, that's what I mean by the vocal and the pelvic. Okay, extended warrior variation. Inhale that left forearm to your thigh, right hand behind back. You may grab thigh or clothing. As long as the left knee is all right with this, let it bend, let it be over that left foot. And I'm turning, I'm just rotating, turning each of those thigh bones kind of outwardly. Yeah, as I start to turn, the fancy word is external rotation. But as I feel those thigh bones turning, that way, and the other one does this, yeah, there you go. So that one's coming that way. This one's going that way. Yeah. As you get those legs working, you can do a really deep study on the throat and the tongue and the voice, not to mention the hips. So feel the neck. Can you feel inside the neck? External rotations. Don't move that foot. Don't move that foot. That way. As well as that way. Both together. Yeah, so toes are free. Yeah, legs get a whole different thing here. Release, inhale, set the right hand down. Get a little extra padding for this right knee. Interlace hands behind back for lunge. So lunge being knee down. When we first began practice, I asked us if we could sense the living motion at the crown of the head. Something that fascinates me about these lunge moves, some of these deep lunge moves, is the many ways just very, very subtle ways that we may dam energy from the head, that quality of living movement through the head, the brain, the vocal. We've got another option here. So when you release the hands, just let them go a moment. You may, with right hand, grab a right foot and simply draw the hand back. I can put this left hand anywhere for support. The other option is both hands. Reach for the right ankle. Feeling the tip of the tailbone melt down away from the brain. And there's a pitch. There's a quality of highness or lowness to your Ujjaya, even if you aren't making a pitch, an audible pitch, chorded, vocally chorded sound. So the Ujjaya breath sound is not without pitch. It's not without highness or lowness. And I wonder how that floats, how that correlates with what we're feeling in our body. Releasing will set that right foot down. Inhale, hands to ground. Exhaling, chaturanga. Inhale, upward dog. Please use cobra if it's better on your back. Exhaling, downward dog. Inhale, step, both feet forward, monkey. Exhaling, fold. Chair pose, bend knees, inhale, reach. As the arms lift, as the chest lifts, feel the tailbone shifting down and keep lifting the chest. And then keep shifting the tailbone down and keep lifting the chest. Stand, exhale, hands to heart. Chair's real. Let's have a pause moment here. There's two items we'll play with at the wall. One is vertical splits, and two is dancer. The vertical splits is really just a check for us. And by check, I mean it doesn't have to be this enduring, laborious stretch. So I can have a wall if I like, and I'll grab one foot at a time with both hands. Getting a few deep, just checking in breaths. Can I connect to breath? I'll set it down. Just 3, 4, 5 breaths. We'll check the other side. Then, dancer with your large loop. just as a reminder, you can use the wall. My recommendation for wall use, most people want to both have it and not have it. This is my observation. I want to be by the wall, but I'm really too far away from the wall to use it. So then I do all sorts of funny things, like I wave one of my elbows out and I half lean into the wall, and I'm trying to always push my, if you're going to use it, just dive all in. Get that hip against it, and you're on it. That's if you want it. Okay, dancer, reaching the elbows forward. And if I decide not to use the wall, cool. Same thing. Both hands grab the strap. Reaching out through that thigh bone. I'm in that, there's that suspension bridge. Arms reach forward. All of this activity through the arms and the legs are preventing me from compressing and squishing my back. So standing splits plus dancer. And I'll, if there needs to be dancer options, we can make those. So we don't have to do dancer if it's bothersome. I don't know. How do you usually feel after? So if we're working that vertical splits, just a recall, summary, I'm grabbing the foot with two hands, pressing that foot out, connecting to a few breaths. Just switch over to the other side whenever you're doing the other side. We're in a little bit of a freestyle time, so you'll have to just self-regulate, self-move through these poses. Yeah, that's it, cat, that's it. Yeah. There you go. Using that inner leg, Michelle, that inner left leg. Yep, Yeah, so I'm letting that dancer hip kind of, and my standing knee, I'm embracing that space between the hip and the knee. There you go, there you go. And just feel what the throat does, right? Good. Nice, Sarah. Now, dancers are one of these, I think, beautiful places where you can really feel into the viscera, meaning the sheaths of envelopments and connections. All of those inner organs. Everywhere there's surface, and surface touching surface, there's a potential for extraordinary intelligence to be discovered. If we shifted your hips forward, even on a bent left knee, let that left knee bend just a little, yep. Very softly push out, Yeah, so you feel that whole thigh bone, just very, very softly. Just here, just because there's a knob right there. There you go. You can keep bending that left knee a little bit. There you go. And as that thigh bone reaches out very gently, the forearms in analog. What is? Oh, the hip. Oh. I gotcha. There's doorknobs right here. You're welcome to use this wall. I want you to like stand up and go bonk. So I'm guessing you're on your second side of dancer. If not, just keep moving, I guess. Yes, they all that are on the hips. Soft belly. I know there's a lot of engagement, but softening the belly helps us metaphorically, poetically digest, right? I'm not a doctor. And just subtly reaching through those arms. Now, if you've done both sides, you may rest. There you go. Let's feel how that breath's starting to get all sorts of other places. We'll have a seat. Let's have that seat and straddle. So I've got my legs straightened and widely apart. Can you feel both sit bones on the ground? That'll be a nice extra. So lengthening through both sides of your low back as your low back reaches over your right leg. So first I want you to get the sense of both sides of your spine. And then both sides of your spine lengthening basically over the right leg. And just wherever you feel a sweetness, just put your hand down. Support yourself right there. This isn't a necessary move, but you could reach your left arm overhead. That might just be too additive, so you don't have to do that. Sometimes I'll just leave both my hands on the ground and just go super smoothly into side bend. I'll just remind us to feel the breath from the solar plexus. And feel it spreading down along the inside of the spine, or can you feel it spreading down through the lower abdomen? It's not so much a I cause this to occur move, active. It's more of, I'm so internally gentle and yielding. Breath goes where it may, and I have the awareness to feel where it goes. My awareness expands to sense more and more breath, breathing my organs. Press your way up. Feel both sit bones on the ground. We'll transfer over the other side before Shavasana. So I'm feeling both sides of my low back as lengthening over the left leg. I'm going to just place my left hand out just to kind of hold my spot. Now you could reach the right arm over in a side bend, and that would be fine. As soon as I change that moment arm and I start to put a little more mass out over my leg, it will create more need for support internally. So just know it's a different form of work. And again, it's not that we're pumping breath into an area, but it's more that as I become so yieldingly sensitive, as I internally soften to sense more and more, my awareness expands and I can sense breath in more and more areas of my body. Inhaling, we'll move our way back up. Use hands on the outsides of the legs, help them together. Lie back. We'll take Shavasana. You're always welcome to support back. Sometimes lying down after a round of like lunges or a little bit of back bend like we've done. Sometimes it's nice to lie with legs up wall or on couch. There you go. And then listening to your breath grow very, very soft. This is the time to let go of that yoga breathing, that technique. That Ujjaya technique. And I'd suggested at the very beginning of our practice that we could breathe very subtly, like sub-Ujjaya, very quietly. And if you want to return to that breath we began with, it began behind the stomach, the solar plexus. And feeling in between all of those turns and rotations and twists. That this singular gut tube had made to form all of these exquisite tube functions of absorption and release. You're welcome to be here as long as you wish. If you're ready to move, bend knees. Turn to a side and press up. Namaste. Thank you all.